This, of course, is the 7th anniversary of the beginning of the Iraq War. And so it is a time to take stock, because that 7 years has been a time of awakening of people against first the Bush regime, and now taking stock as to where we stand now. And here in Canada, of course, that includes the Harper government, and not only its refusal to deal with the question of the war crimes committed by Canada in Afghanistan, the demand of Canadians that Canada get out of Afghanistan, but we are facing a situation here where what used to be covert is now, you know, I can't see people because of these speakers, so I want to move this if that's okay. We'll just come out a bit. I hate talking to people I can't see. So what used to be covert has now become normalized, and that's a very, very serious situation. You know, Linda spoke of rule of law, but what is it that they're making law? We really have to think about that, because if you go back to the period, say, when the overthrow of the government of Chile took place, or all kinds of things like this through the 70s and 80s, or the covert operations in Afghanistan and so on, then these things were carried out by the CIA on the sly. So it wasn't that the US or other imperialists ever accepted the demand of the world's people that they not commit aggression and war, that they not commit torture and rendition and all of these criminal acts which are taking place. They did carry these things out, but they did not admit to it. They carried them out covertly. It's not, you know, it's something that we really have to think about when we realize that the leader of the official opposition in Parliament, who is now screaming about torture, himself wrote essays saying that torture was acceptable. Whoa. And trying to make the argument that torture is acceptable in the name of security. And precisely on the questions of the kind of torture that was carried out of Omar Khadr, this is what Ignatieff himself tried to justify. So we're facing a very serious situation where, according to the Harper government, rule of law is might makes right. And so we are here today to say that we will never accept, and people of Canada will never accept that might makes right. And we will never accept that what they used to do in secret, in hiding, they can now do openly and carry out and continue the policies which of the Bush government, in fact, rendition, torture, and continued aggression, and all of these things as official policy. So, you know, this begs the question, which Tony's going to talk about more, I think, which is why are we in Afghanistan? So somebody asked me the question a few days ago about a particular organization. What is their conception of peace? And I thought about this. It was an organization that's connected with, you know, various government agencies, and it hit me that their conception of peace is when there's no resistance. In other words, aggression and war is for them, and for the people, there is capitulation, acceptance, defeat, whatever. So might makes right. That's their conception of peace. So they carry out all these things in the name of security. Have they created a security for the people of Iraq? Things have never been, you know, more insecure than in the past 7 years, when more than 1 million people died as a result of their so-called creating security. That is also the situation, is it not, in Afghanistan? How about the situation for the people of Gaza, for the people of the West Bank? How about the situation for the people of Haiti, when what they talk about is an event which took place? If you read Harper's throne speech, he talks about an event which took place there, which is of no one's making. But they never tell you why the results are so devastating and what role they had to play in the overthrow of the government in Haiti. They never tell you why their aim in Haiti was to send all those troops there in the name of security. You remember every day they badmouthed the Haitian people on the television and said they were, people who were just simply trying to get water for themselves. They were looting, they were violent and all this. And everyone kept saying, no, this is not what's going on in Haiti. But you kept on getting this message repeated over and over again because everything is going to be done in the name of security. So while you're sending thousands of troops there, you don't care that the vital water and food is sitting on the tarmac and the people are going hungry and the people have no water to drink and no food to eat. So this is the kind of security which they talk about. And their security has brought nothing but insecurity. So we affirm our concept of security, which is that our security lies in the defense of the rights of all. That's where our security lies. Sorry, I need a little help today. So I want to make this point that what the situation we're facing now, we should all be very, very cognizant of. And that is that you have a policy from the US-led NATO and other alliance of encirclement of Iran, of other countries, such as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, what is often known as North Korea, anyhow, we have encirclement of various countries which is taking place, of Venezuela, of Cuba, in fact, of any country which seeks its own path and which says that it's going to follow its own path of development, it's going to assert its right to be, its people's right to independence, to sovereignty, and to live their lives as they choose, not as is imposed upon them. In contrast, from the Harper government, what we get is this almost religious or evangelical notion of white man's burden, that our way of life, what he calls Canadian values, and which have nothing to do with the values of Canadians, are that we know best and we have therefore the right to go anywhere in the world, anytime we like, and force people by murder, by killing, by bombs, by torture, by any means necessary to follow the way of life which Harper says is acceptable. So we're here today to say no and to affirm that we stand in defense of the right of people everywhere, in every land, in every part of this world, to set their own course of development, to defend their rights, and to do and so on. So someone has a sign here, which it really puts this in a capsule. Who knew Iraq disaster? Almost everybody. And is that not the case 7 years later? That we marched in the streets, I think 18,000 of us about this time, 7 years ago, and everyone knew. Everyone knew. So these are not matters that we can forgive and forget in terms of the crimes which have been carried out in our name and which we say not in our name. Okay, I just want to have a little quote or just a wrap up to tell you what Harper said in his recent throne speech when he opened Parliament. We hear this idea that Canadians are in Afghanistan to promote democracy, and we reject it utterly, completely, and totally. Harper speaks of military occupation as a worthy distinction. He talks about imperialist aggression as a rewarding value. He talks about it as a source of pride for the nation. So it's this idea that you can occupy any country in the world and that this is a rewarding, almost a religious duty to carry this out. And we reject entirely this conception that anyone's personal beliefs about anything can justify what cannot be justified by imperialism. Of course, this is simply a ploy on the part of Harper not to speak in open and ugly terms that might makes right, and that they are carrying out this encirclement and these attacks on the basis of imperialist dictate over the whole world. So just to finish this, I want to make one point, which is that we must really pay attention to the fact that the US-led NATO, of which Canada is a part, is pushing the line that they have a right to first strike nuclear aggression. To first strike nuclear, what do they call it? Preemptive strike. And so the situation we're facing is very, very dangerous. It's not a question that we can think, well, next year they're going to be out of Afghanistan, pretty soon they're going to be out of Iraq. They have encirclement of China in mind, they have encirclement of Iran in mind, they have the attacks on all these other countries. Anyone who stands up and defends their own right to their own way of life. They never stop attacking the people of Palestine and everyone who defends Palestine for 1 second. And all of this, we have to make sure that we keep fighting and putting forward our demand that we need to organize for an anti-war government in Canada. Thank you very much.